When Kim Rehir was in the hospital, paralyzed from the hip downwards, she felt like she had lost her power, her dignity, and even her humanity. This totally shifted her perspective on what she valued in life. Here is Kim's story.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Kim Rehir is a 60-year-old mother of three who was diagnosed with MS 10 years ago and decided to ignore her doctor's advice and muscle her way back to a happy life. I absolutely love that line. That's a bumper sticker moment right there. Last year, she became European champion in Masters Weightlifting in her age and weight category. Her journey inspired her to leave her career in journalism in her 50s and become a health coach for middle-aged women, with a big focus on reactivating and rebuilding muscle. Tell us your story and welcome, Kim.
Well, thanks for having me, Carol. Yeah, I used to be a journalist and quite a passionate one. I loved, writing stories, finding stories, bringing news to the people. And I think I was pretty good at it. And I had three kids at the same time as having a career, which was like a super achievement.
Hmm.
I'm German. I was brought up in a still very conservative society. And we were always told, especially as teenagers, you can either be a career woman, which was like a bit of an insult, or you can have a family, but you couldn't have both. And I did give up my full-time job to follow my husband, but I worked as a freelancer all the time and we traveled the world and I wrote the most amazing stories about Saudi Arabian women and Iraqi people under the sanctions. It was exciting. It was great. It was adventurous. And when we'd had three kids, we moved around the world with them. And at some point, I actually got a full-time job again. We were in Berlin. My oldest child was 10 years old, and I was an editor in a newswire. And I thought this was it, the pinnacle. I had a great career, and I had three kids, a family. That was absolutely had been my dream, and I thought, yeah, I made it. And then from one day to the next, like literally, it all went away. I was picking up my kids from school. I was seeing double all of a sudden, which is like super scary,
No
super
kidding.
scary.
Hmm.
Yeah. And because you have like an achy back or I don't know, a cold or something, you're just gonna stick it out and it's gonna be okay. But when you see double, something's wrong in your brain. So I went to see the doctor, was sent to hospital right away, and I ended up spending 6 weeks there. And after 3 weeks, I was paralyzed from the hip downward. I
Oh
couldn't
my
wiggle
goodness.
a toe. And my kids were so small. And, the heartbreak that you feel when you're totally helpless in hospital and your kids come visiting you and they see you like this,
Hmm.
it was so sad. I mean, they were super brave, and my mom came and helped us, and everybody was brave and supportive. But I was, scared. I was because nobody could tell me what was going on. That was the thing. They thought it was something with autoimmunity. They wasn't sure. They weren't sure what it was because I had these, like the cross-eyed thing, and then the paralysis they don't usually go together. And doctors, they have like these definition boxes, and I didn't fit into any of those.
And how long did that period last?
I was in hospital for 6 weeks.
Oh my
After
goodness.
when I got out, I was like in a wheelchair, learned to walk again very slowly on crutches. And it took them a while to tell me that this actually was not even yet the MS. It was a syndrome called Guillain-Barré, named after the two French doctors who discovered it. And it's a one-off. So it comes, it's very brutal because it's like very sudden onset, just like I experienced, and then it goes away. Some people have very, very long after effects and take a long time to get better. It took me about 6 months to learn walking again. And I thought at the time, now this really changed my perspective, and I became a much cooler mom, as you can imagine. I just wanted to be with my kids and enjoy my time with them. I didn't care about their homework too much and all the other stuff, that we used to get worked up about. And after like 2 more years, they told me that this was now behind me and that I had like a clean bill of health and to just go ahead and live my life. And I was crying with emotion. I thought, that's fantastic. And then another 2 years later, we had moved again. We were not in Berlin anymore. We were in France. I felt my left hand going numb, and I knew this wasn't good. And, tests and checkups and what have you. And they told me this time it's different. It's still autoimmune, but this is an attack of your immune system on your nervous system, on the white matter in your nerves. And if that happens again, then this is a case of multiple sclerosis with totally unknown outcome. You could have not very much. You could go blind. You could be in a wheelchair. Could be just about anything. And, after that experience that I had before, lying in the hospital, having so much fear, having felt so helpless, so really undignified. I really felt I lost my humanity, because you cannot decide a thing in hospital, not even when someone's in your room or when the light is on in your room, nothing at all. So after having overcome this, and now that I thought, this is like really a low blow. Come on, give me a break. I just had overcome this thing. Why? What is going on here? And my memory of that time is like, I think of those times as very dark. I remember going to bed, trying desperately not to think about what was going to happen to me. And over the weeks, I actually learned to start focusing on the present moment, because I knew that was the only thing that was going to save me. The future was so scary and so uncertain, which, it's weird because it's the same for every single human being. None of us know where we're going to be tomorrow. Not with certainty. Anything can happen to anyone, anytime. But still, when you have this diagnosis, it's much more real, and it's much more threatening. You become really aware of, that nothing is promised, nothing is a given. And I started meditation. I started really living in the present, trying to spend as much time as I could with my kids and having a good time with them. And I started lifting weights. It's something that, it sounds so weird, but because when I was in hospital before, I couldn't walk. And I was so envious of all the people who were just walking around and weren't even aware of how lucky they were that their legs were functioning. And this time, I still have this numbness in my hand until this day, but otherwise I was sort of okay. I could walk, I could move normally. And I felt this strong desire to become physically strong, and I think this goes back to the hospital time where I was so helpless. And it has something to do also with the fact that it's autoimmune, where your body is attacking itself. It's a way of controlling your body, of making it stronger, and also a way of being able to rely on your body again, trust your body again. I wanted to make it like really strong. I wanted to be strong and powerful, not depend on anyone, to carry me to a toilet ever again. And I had asked the doctor, can I exercise? And he said something like, oh, yeah, but please be careful. I don't understand that because
Hmm.
it's a way of sort of, he's trying to make you afraid. Be
Right.
careful. But why do you have to be careful? Only if there's some kind of danger, which he doesn't spell out. He doesn't say this could happen or this has happened to people with MS when they started exercising. Nothing at all. It's just, I think it was more about him than about me. He thought, exercise. I don't know anything about this, so I'm not going to say anything about this. I'm just going to be just a little bit conservative. So if whatever might happen, and I have no idea what might happen because I don't know anything about exercise, it's not going to be my responsibility. So he said, no, you be careful. I was lucky because I think it was 2 days later, I talked to a nurse. She showed me how to inject myself because, you need lifelong treatment for
Right.
MS.
Right.
And she said, oh, exercise is great for multiple sclerosis. It makes you fatigue resistant. And fatigue is one of the big problems for MS patients. And that was my green light. So I went to the gym, armed myself with a book. I mean, I was a journalist after all. I learned things by
Right.
reading.
Right.
Um, and I started lifting. And this book I had was one of the first, I think it was from the end of the 90s, one of the first that said women should lift heavy. Ditch the pink dumbbells and go for the big exercises and lift heavy, which now we know that it makes
Mhm.
total sense. But even at the time, I mean, has anybody ever asked you if, carrying your toddler and 5 bags of groceries was too heavy for you? I don't think so.
I push
Uh,
myself, so I totally understand what you're saying, and I always have, and I think that isn't that part of it? But knowing what your body needs and pushing yourself to that beyond your limits.
Absolutely. It's all about overcoming resistance and overcoming resistance in so many ways. Because first of all, you lift, yes, you overcome resistance because gravity wants that barbell to stay on the floor, and you have to overcome that. It's also about going out of your way, to go for that struggle in the gym. So there's a resistance from inside you, that says,
Right, right.
maybe I could stay home today. It's cold outside, or I'm tired, or whatever. And then there's also resistance in your environment. I didn't struggle with that too much. I have a very supportive family, but let's say our culture and its attitude towards women who want to be physically strong is still uh, it's still a factor. It's still something where women think, oh, am I not going to look like a man if I lift? Am I not going to become too masculine? Or, maybe feeling like you're out of place in the gym with all these, strong guys that using the equipment, and you're there and you're scared of thinking, oh, can I go there? What will they say? What will they think? So there's a lot of resistance that you have to overcome to do this. And this is exactly what makes for the incredible health effects that you get. Because yes, you get stronger muscles, you get stronger joints, you
Hmm.
get stronger bones, you get better cardiovascular health even, you get much better metabolic health because when you build muscle, you build a blood sugar management system that's inbuilt. You don't have to worry about anything. And you build that capacity to deal with resistance. Because when you then encounter resistance in other parts of your life, you have this really very vivid memory in your brain, in your fibers, literally, in your fibers, that resistance is something that you can overcome. And that will help you deal with resistance in other parts of your life. You're not going to just say, oh, yeah, they don't want me to do this, so I'm not going to do this. You will remember, oh, yeah, I know. The barbell, didn't want to go up from the floor either, and I did it. Now, it's not going to happen in so many words in your brain, but you will have this changed attitude. You will have this confidence. You will stand taller. You will walk taller. You will have more belief in yourself and your capacities to do things and to overcome resistance. And now we know that there's even like neural pathways that get created when you train like this, and that you benefit from then in other parts of your life. So for me, it meant that in a pretty short amount of time, I got so much better. I got better with all my physical symptoms. I got strong. Reflexes that had gone came back and everything. And I felt just so much more confident and positive about life. I think the mental health benefits of strength training probably outweigh like the host of other physical benefits that I just mentioned. I think the mental health benefit is even bigger than that. So it's something I tend to think of it as a one-stop shop, because you can deal with so much stuff with just one intervention.
Now, my guess is that as you were, whatever time this took, whatever this transition time took, that you were probably being encouraged along the way. Am I correct? Like with possibly overcoming particular tasks that you didn't think you could do, or, there had to be an emotion attached to this as well, correct? And what your family may
Yes.
have been seeing. So share a little bit about that side of it.
Well, I mentioned before that it was so heartbreaking to have my kids see me in a hospital
Right,
bed.
right.
And um, when I started getting stronger physically, I remember there was a moment. Um, First of all, at the beginning, after my illness, everybody was like a bit careful around me, my kids. I mean, kids, small kids, they want to roll on the floor with you and stuff. And I felt that there was a little bit of hesitation. It wasn't shown, like it wasn't obvious. But then there's one moment when I realized that they were sort of playing with me and didn't pay any attention to, oh my God, would there be like a problem? Should they be like careful or anything? They were just playing wildly with me. And then I realized the effect that my improvement in my physical strength even had on those relationships. And that was a very emotional moment when I noticed that
Hmm.
life and mom was kind of normal again for my kids.
And how did your doctors respond?
Well, that's the thing. The one that said be careful. After moving away from France, I never saw him again. And when we came to Spain, I found myself a neurologist. I mean, playing via the internet, just Googling, where should I go? Found a name, made an appointment, and I think I met one of the best guys in all of Europe, because he saw me. And after watching me for like 2 years, he prescribed the treatment. I injected myself. That's quite unpleasant, by the way. And after 2 years, we were preparing a camping trip to Canada. And I said, when we go camping, I don't really want to take this injection stuff with me. It's difficult on the plane. They never put stuff in the fridge for you. I mean, they can't because they don't have the space. And then camping and injecting, like hypodermic needles. I don't know. And he said,
Right, right.
you can suspend for 2 weeks or you can stop for good. I'm happy for you to try. And I said, what? Of course, I want to do this. He said, if you want to continue, I'm going to support you either way. Want to stop or you want to continue? But I think it's worth a try to stop. And I said, hell yes, let's stop. And that was more than 7 years ago now. And I've been without treatment and
Wow.
without a relapse ever since. And I consider myself lucky to have found this doctor, because it was quite unconventional. Usually, because of doctors are afraid that you might have a relapse that does some serious damage to your body. And he was confident enough, also seeing me the way I was,
Hmm.
you said, I think I can think we can call this a day. And that was the second time I had gotten my life back. So that was just a great, great gift. That was also the moment when I thought, I think I'm onto something here with what I did. Not that I think I can cure MS, but the way my whole life, my whole attitude, my mindset, everything evolved with my training. And the way I know that so many women feel from their 50s onward, I thought, this is something I need to share. This is something I need to cry from the rooftop, shout from the rooftops.
That's awesome. Now we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back in just a few seconds, we're going to talk about exactly that. How what you discovered is not only helped yourself, but can help everybody, every women in particular, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So we'll be right back, and we're going to hear Kim's secrets.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another. Gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
Thank you, Kim, for what you shared. I certainly was motivated and intrigued because I know many people who are struggling with this restriction. The fear sets in too. I don't think you address that, but that's what I was feeling as you were talking, that there is an element of fear. You didn't buy into that fear, but I think a lot of people do. And so what we're going to talk about now is maybe just address that for a minute or so, and then talk to us about how women can tap into that abundant source of vitality and overcome that fear and concern, and how they do that by reactivating and maintaining muscle. And I love this, what you said here, eating to nourish and flourish. So talk to us about that, and then share, please, your fabulous in 15 approach to this new lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely. So it's great that you mentioned fear, because that was when I got my second diagnosis. That was a big. It was like a big black space that and there was a door inside my soul that had opened to what that blackness of fear, and I did everything I could to keep that door closed. Fear is, it's normal to have fear, but I think when we're older, our brain tells us that more than half of our life is behind us, and it's maybe downhill from here. Our bodies start doing weird things that we're not used to. In my case, it was an illness. For most women, they don't necessarily have to go through this kind of thing, but they still feel that their body is betraying them a little bit. They work, and some women really tell me, like, literally, I woke up one day and I had this big belly, or I woke up one day and all my joints were aching. It feels like so arbitrary and scary, because you haven't really done anything in particular, and all of a sudden your body is doing all these weird things. So that causes fear, insecurity, uncertainty. What's going to happen? What's going to become? And we have not really been equipped with the right tools to deal with this. Most women will then go on a diet, do something really restrictive, and something that will reduce their energy even more, because the basic problem of most of these things is that we lack energy. Our sleep gets worse as we age. We have spent decades looking after everything and everyone. Many women are exhausted, and then they think, this is not right. My body is not looking and working the way I want to. I probably have to go on a diet. And then it spirals from there, because then they reduce their energy even more. And the less energy you have, the more miserable you're going to be. And the
Right.
more afraid you're going to be, because if you don't have energy, you cannot be strong. You cannot, it's crazy, but you cannot drop fat if you have no energy, because you need your body to move. And that's when many women think there's something wrong with me. My body just doesn't respond to anything anymore, because when I was like 20 and I went on a cabbage soup diet for 2 weeks, I could lose like 10 to 20 pounds, and now it's not reacting anymore. And then there's this other fear. This is more like a social fear, and this is what I hear over and over again. And that's something that also makes me very sad, when women tell you when you turn 50 as a woman, you become invisible. This is where I totally changed the approach from something like restrictive or reductive. Women, even when they go to the gym, they go there to shrink, to take up less space, to become smaller and slimmer, and I don't know what. And the only way that you can actually get in shape, give your body a shape that you enjoy, that you love to live in, is by building muscle. And I know it sounds crazy, and women will think, oh my God, I don't want to look like Schwarzenegger. But building muscle is, you're not going to create bulks and bulks of muscle on your body in 2 weeks by looking at a pink dumbbell from a 2-yard distance. It's hard work, and the muscle you will build will not be bulky. It will give you that toned look that so many women are looking for. And most of all, this will take care of all your health worries. I mean, the basic ones, like, bad sleep, low energy, achy joints. Then osteoporosis is a true threat for women, because the bones get weaker as we produce less estrogen and age. And so you want to build muscle. So that's the first thing, the first insight that you need when you have this entered this phase in your life, and you think, oh my God, my body's not working, what can I do? But once you have that insight, then the next question is, how do you actually do that? When you're in your 50s, maybe you've never touched a dumbbell, and actually, if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's the cool thing about this. But you have all these notions and ideas of what strength training and muscle building is about. So this is where you have to be really very discerning in your approach when you're not 20 anymore. So you don't want to download any old workout from YouTube. There are great workouts on there. They're perfect. They're wonderful. They're just not made for women in their 50s or 60s. You want to find yourself a workout that helps you build strength and muscle, but that starts you where you are at physically. And that's the thing, when we're in our 50s, we all have a totally different history of moving, of health, of illness that we might have encountered. You really want to find out, what is your actual status? How strong, how mobile are you? And then from there, you can start working out with stuff that's challenging enough for you, but that will not get you hurt or discouraged. And that's the main point when you're in your 50s and you want to start working out. So you really need to start where you are at. And then what I found too, when I started working with women, I thought, okay, it's very easy. You just give them a workout to do, and then some nice nutrition coaching to get away from the diet model and really feed your body, your muscles, and that's it. But it doesn't work that way, because change is difficult. So we don't only have to overcome the resistance of gravity, we have to overcome the inner resistance to the one that I mentioned before. And I realized that I had to make the change as small as possible to make it doable, to make it encouraging, to not make it overwhelming or scary
Right, right. I see that.
or intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, I developed this method where you just have to work out for 15 minutes a day
Wow.
in the comfort of your home. You can even do the stuff that I give you in your pajamas, and still you will get stronger.
Hmm.
Most of the women I work with tell me that they feel so much better after 2 weeks, nothing
Oh
but
my,
2 weeks.
I was just going to say how long. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
And the thing is, and this is the part about the reactivating the muscles, the thing is that our body, if we do not use certain muscles over a long time, they get sort of put offline by the body. I mean, they don't go away, they are there, they might be weak, but they exist. But they're a little bit disconnected because strength, a big, big part of strength, is not so much the size of the muscle or the number of muscle fibers, but actually the quality of the connection between the nervous system and the muscle. So we have to wake up that connection first. And this is also a problem when you haven't exercised in a long time and then you sign up for something and you follow the
Mm-hmm.
exercises and then you get hurt and you don't even know why. And again, you think, oh, I'm too old. There's something wrong with my body. When actually there was just, your body couldn't actually execute the exercises in the way they were meant to be done because the signal from your brain didn't get through. You just don't have this connection between the central nervous system and the muscles to contract properly. I know that sounds crazy, but it really is the case. And some people, when they have been sitting for decades, they can't um, contract the muscles in their backsides, in their bum. We also call
Mm-hmm.
this gluteal amnesia. It's because it's just, it's offline. So depending on where you are at, I will start you with stuff that will just wake up that connection. Just make sure that you actually contract muscles um, like effectively with a good signal. And that doesn't take long, but it also leads to you feeling so much more like embodied. You can actually feel muscles and parts of your body working that have been asleep for a while, and that makes for a different quality of life already, and it gives you lots of confidence and a better feeling quite quickly. So you don't have to toil away in the gym for months and years. You can really start 15 minutes a day um, at home and feel a significant difference after a few weeks. I think this is really important because it helps you put into perspective what you need to do, because that's also very often the case that you think, oh my God, I'm 50 something and I'm so far gone, like air quotes,
Right.
that no way I can come back from this. And it doesn't take that much. Oftentimes, it's actually these small steps that are so much more effective than the big, big overhauls, because we can never stick with them. That's the problem. And when you
Right.
do these small things, so it's not only from a physical perspective that this is the best thing to do to sort of get your body back into movement, reconnect your brain with your muscles. Also from a behavioral point of view, it's something that really works because what you have to do is so small that there's no doubt that you can do it, and that gives you a lot of confidence, and that's how you build momentum also.
That's probably one of the most encouraging statements I have heard regarding this subject. And I've interviewed several people who have, shared about starting this type of program. So I'm excited. And again, as I said, I'm sure that the audience is as well. And also, a lot of people that I have interviewed on this show in this talking about this are men. And so I think it's even more of a bonus for me personally, and again, for many members of my audience to hear it from the female, the woman over 50 perspective. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, I can do this. You're building an
Yes.
encouragement that I can do this, and I don't have to feel. Um, one of the things that came to me as you were talking is that it doesn't seem to require as much discipline as many programs do, because you're going to feel so much better so much quicker. Am I correct in
Yes,
that?
absolutely. And discipline is like totally overrated. Um, and
I like that.
yeah, it is. Um, it's such an interesting subject. I love this subject about discipline. Here's another problem for women our age. You embark on that diet where you're going to eat just broccoli and chicken for 4 weeks, and then after 2 days, when your life catches up with you and you have had like a super really bad day, and the idea of a glass of wine is so much more appealing than the idea of chicken and broccoli.
Right.
You Yeah, and then I mean it happens to everybody, and then these women think, oh, it's me. There's something wrong with me. I have no discipline. I have no self-control. There must be something wrong with my character. It's like a personal flaw that I have, that I cannot stick with these things, when it's actually totally human. Totally human. We only have like a finite amount of willpower that we can exert over a day, and it decreases. And there's tons of research for this. The harder the tasks that we have to solve over the day, the less willpower we have in the evening. So it's totally, totally normal. And then when you interview people and they've done all this, they talk to people who are so super good at sticking with plans, like, exercise regimens or eating plans and everything. How do you do this? Um, how do you have so much willpower? And most of these people say they do not need or use willpower to stick with their stuff, because they create an environment in which they don't need willpower.
Oh, good
And this
point.
is something that gets
Yes.
totally underestimated. And I keep telling my clients, and in my messaging I say, look at your environment. If you are surrounded by people who lounge on sofas and eat potato chips, you stand no chance. You need support. You need to make sure that there's like healthy stuff in your fridge and not tons of other stuff, because if it's there, you will
Of
eat it, and
course.
it's got nothing
Absolutely.
to do with your personality. It's just how things are. So um, that's the problem with willpower and discipline. And then many of these things, like getting up early in the morning and working out first thing, or getting your walks in, to organize your environment in this way, to make sure that you have like cues in your everyday life that tell you, oh yeah, I wanted to go to the gym. Oh yeah, I wanted to go for a walk. Oh, I wanted to buy this, I don't know, a bunch of vegetables. They are all skills, in my opinion.
Hmm.
They're skills that you can learn. And just imagine if you had a task in front of you, and one is, this is a skill that you can learn. Might take a few months, but it's a skill that you can learn. And the other says, well, you're either born to do this, you have this innate quality, or you don't have it. Which one is more empowering? Of course, you want to go for the skill,
Right.
because anybody can learn those skills,
Exactly.
actually.
Actually, you summarize that very well, and a lot of the things that I was going to ask you, you answered, and so I appreciate that. My question for you now is, how do people connect with you to start on this program?
Well, you can go to my website, kimrehir.com, and you can find out a little bit about what I do, and how I see things, but what I shared here today too. And then on there's a health and strength assessment that you can take, because I mentioned that you want
Okay.
to start where you are at exactly. And that's a first step to find out what your actual situation is. And it's not about can you do 5 push-ups or something like this? It's
Right.
actually how your physical strength ties into your everyday life. How functional you are, how confident you feel, the way that, your body is moving or feeling right now. And then when you take that assessment, and I give you some pointers, some first steps for things that you can do, to start working from the place you are at right now and then get better from there.
And all that information will be on the page that I will have with connecting with you as well. So I appreciate that. In closing, is there anything that you would like to share, a word of encouragement or anything that you would like to, please do.
Yes. I always like to insist that there's only one question that you ever have to ask yourself. And the question is not, why is this happening? What have I done wrong? How have I ended up here? Or who is to blame for how I feel or how I look? The only question you can ask yourself is, what can I do right now? And this is also so empowering, because when you go backwards, your mind is in a time machine and you're not really dealing with actual problems. You're just trying to find reasons or someone to blame. Whereas when you ask yourself, what can I do right now? You can take an action. It could be super small. It could be having a glass of water, going for a walk around the block, going to bed 10 minutes early, whatever it is. But it's something that you can actually do, where you can actually shape your life, your environment, and you can give yourself positive feedback by taking action, and you can create momentum like this. And actually, for the rest of your life, it's the only question you're ever going to have to ask yourself if you want to improve your health and your quality of life.
What a perfect ending. That is absolutely an amazing statement, and I thank you for that. And I thank you, Kim, for being on Never, Ever Give Up Hope.
Thank you so much for having me, Carol.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.